Welcome to the Growing Pair podcast, where we discuss anything to help you reflect, learn, and grow. Welcome your hosts, Isaac Goldfarb and James Edge.
James, is that time of the week, episode 29 it is, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, happy Friday.
Why? Happy Friday. So, remember we had the episode when we talked about AI with Emma, remember that?
Yes, that was a great topic to hit on.
And what did you take away from it, and did you implement anything different from that episode?
Wow, you really put me on the spot here.
I love doing that,
Well, one thing I definitely noticed after is I now all the time say thank you to ChatGPT, and I always appreciate the stuff I
You
get back.
do. So you didn't learn anything from that episode.
No, but as in like I've now thought of it as I do have a relationship with AI, which I hadn't really thought about before.
We are going to talk about AI, but we have a special guest star, and let me introduce our lovely guest star. So we are joined by Derek Crager, founder of Practical AI and creator of Pocket Mentor. Late diagnosed with autism, ADHD, and dyslexia, Derek has turned his challenges into strengths, building tools that help people grow, learn, and thrive in real life. Derek, welcome to our show.
Isaac, James, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Late diagnosis, how did it impact you? Tell us.
Well, Isaac, I cried for 2 weeks. And it was happy tears and sad tears all at once. It was finally an understanding, and it took a weight off my shoulders that I knew I had weight and anxiety like all of us do, but it really put me in a place of acceptance. And so I came out of that 2 weeks and I really embraced that diagnosis. So I'm 58 and I was diagnosed at age 50. So that's 5 decades here on this earth, spending a lot of time in the self-help aisle, trying to find, that subroutine that could fix my brain and to make me like everybody else I could fit in. And when I got that diagnosis, it was like, okay, I fit in, but my crowd is defined differently. So I embraced that crowd, and I really learned that there's a lot of empathy in our people. And I leveraged that. And honestly, I was a few months into my tenureship at Amazon, and I'd leveraged everything that I learned, and that embracing of it really is the foundation of a feather of my cap at Amazon. I built Amazon's highest rated employee training program in company history. And I owe that really to the foundation of understanding who I am. By understanding who I am, that gave me better perspective on who other people are.
Incredible the way that you kind of reacted to that late diagnosis. It seems kind of feel that you kind of understood where you were, and feels like you embraced it and maximized your potential straight after that, which is great. What advice would you give to other people in a similar situation?
Learn that you're enough, and if you don't feel like you're enough, find out why. Ask yourself questions. Don't get a label just to get a label. Do truly understand yourself and truly understand others. And we all have advantages and we all have disadvantages. And the best thing we can do is just understand how those pieces fit together.
I'm listening to what you're saying, Derek, and the fact that you are embracing that late diagnosis in such a humble is inspiring me. More people coming out as ADHD, dyslexia, autism, and actually speaking about it. Really. When it comes to AI, how do you find the similarities, or how do you see that as a helping tool?
For me as an individual, I use AI as my buddy, as my friend, as my guide, as my mentor. AI as a communication or interface, or other people trying to have a relationship, like James started off the show with talking about. We hear a lot about prompt engineering because we're told that we have to be patient and formulate our questions and our conversations and use the right words at the right time in the right way. And I'm thinking, oh my God, that's us too. All right. So AI, and AI. So AI, as far as autistic individual, if I'm asked a question, typically autistics are looked at as being weird because we answer the question that we hear, much like AI does on the technical side. It answers the question that it hears. So I think we're in a great space here because the whole world is having this better relationship, developing this better relationship with AI, the technology, and through that, I really see that as value in communicating with AI, the autistic individual. And we're understanding ourselves and we're understanding others better. So that's the connection that I see. If you ask us a question, we're going to respond at face value, just like the technology does. So I think this is leading to a better space for everybody.
What you just said now made me think about the emotional level. What I'm understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, autistic people either can't control their emotion levels or the emotion level is really compressed to a point where, it's not there. Am I understanding it correctly?
Well, I don't think I would address it as emotional. It's just the way our brains work. If we're both at different points on the earth and we're all trying to get to Paris, you might have to go south. I might have to go east. But the goal is still the destination. We just get there in different ways. So in much the same way, the language that we use is mapped out to our brain. So we just have to, I guess you could almost say, interpret. Even in the same, mother tongue, the words that we use are specific to how our brain is.
But the thing is, the emotion levels are usually, and I don't know, James, if you agree with me or not here. When I'm hearing a question, I almost always, in touch with my emotional level of that. So if you, for example, Derek, you ask me a personal question, I will automatically go to my emotional state and check what's happening there and then connect to my brain and then produce an answer. Does it work the same with you?
Well, I want to start off by saying that everybody's brain's different, even in the neurodivergents and even in the autistics. And there's somebody much closer to you than me, Dr. Nancy Doyle in the UK. She created this Genius Within. She's a wonderful person that's been doing this work for 25 years. And what she identified is that we're all different. And when we define neurodivergence versus neurotypical, those are the two big, code words out there. Neurotypical, if you graph on an XY, all of their abilities, it's like a +1, -1 range, up and down. Neurotypical. That's like we can get along, we can live through life, but we're not doing anything dramatically great or dramatically bad to be noticed. Kind of like that Japanese proverb about a nail always sticking up. So the neurodivergence people that are out there, we are, I guess, a whole other magnitude. Here are people that are autistic. You might reference Nikola Tesla or Albert Einstein that they say was autistic and neurodivergent, etc. These are all 21st century terms, really. Einstein was great at science, math. So he's like a +10 instead of a +1. But his communication skills might be at a -10, right? He didn't really get along with everybody. He failed out of 6th grade type of thing. So that's where we need to have an understanding, is that the neurodivergents are just outside of that spec. So our skill sets are much greater, magnified or diminished. And if we lay two neurodivergent lines side by side, even autistics, we might have a +10 for one person on the same skill set that somebody else is a -10, or anywhere on the spectrum. I mean, these are all just relative terms I'm talking about. So, +5, -5, +7, 1, 0, up and down. So that helped me define. It really did. It helped me understand myself, the people around me, my peers, my family. It helped me in relationships, just understanding that we're all different. Even those that are in the same bucket by classification, we're still different. So I think it's really important to understand that.
I was going to mention to your point on the prompts, which if I were to, communicate with any person that was neurodivergent, kind of think as if I was prompting on AI, that would be the optimum way to communicate, and I guess would make the other person feel like I can communicate well with them. And for me, it would make me feel good that I feel I'm communicating in a good way as well. So I kind of see it as like a societal hack for anyone that maybe isn't aware of how different other people's minds work, and kind of use that in everyday life. I think is a great takeaway I'm going to take away from that, if I've understood correct.
Well, when I was young, we used to be taught the golden rule, and a lot of people have heard of the golden rule: treat others as you would want to be treated. But now we're here in a world where we started teaching the platinum rule, and the platinum rule is treat others like they want to be treated, because we are all different. Now, we have no idea what that other person wants to be treated like until we ask them. So if we just trust and we have patience on ourselves and patience in the other person, and we start a conversation and we actually become interested in what they do and how they react and their words and their tonality, etc., then we're creating that relationship. We're building that bridge of trust and respect that will lead to a good conversation. So that's where we're at today. And there's been a lot of ebb and flow in the HR realms and corporate offices. Do we teach all this stuff specifically? And my perspective was, and when I was at Amazon, I taught, DEI specific classes and courses, etc. But my foundation has always been that if we just understand that we're all different and just be patient to get along, I think it leads to better relationships. And that was the foundation of the success that I had at Amazon. So going back to Isaac's question earlier about how do I feel emotionally?
Yeah.
There's studies in science that shows, and Nancy Doyle talks about this, science and studies show that autistics actually tell the truth, or attempt to tell the truth, more often than anybody on earth. And it's those of us that are, I think my father would say, people that wear their heart on their sleeve type of thing. They go to their emotions first versus later. Autistics come in here and they say something, and a lot of times they'll trigger an emotion in the non-autistic individual because the autistic is just laying out the data without pausing to understand how it's going to affect the other person. So just because we wear the autistic hat doesn't mean that we're more sensitive or better than anybody else. It just means that our vocal patterns are different. So we need, as a community, autistics need to understand, we need to be patient and explain more before we just blurt out facts, because facts can be hurtful. Unintentionally, they can be hurtful. And, there's what we call about in communications, intent versus impact. So autistics pushing out facts, the intent is, I want to share these facts with you, because when you understand the facts like I do, we're going to be so in tune. We're going to get along. We're going to be like best friends, like Charlie Brown and Snoopy. And it gets triggered. And if triggered wasn't an actuality, we wouldn't even have the term triggered, but we all get triggered by different things. And the biggest thing that we can do is pause. Well, did you think before you said something? And I think that should be a great recommendation to everybody on earth. We should think and pause before we say something, because the difference is our prefrontal cortex, magnificent tool if we give it time to work, but it takes at least 2 seconds for that to, kick in gear, process, and go. Otherwise, we're on this response mechanism, which is that amygdala at the base of our brain. Our amygdala is that it's the cause that decides, fight or flight or fright experience. And if we let that amygdala control conversations, that's when they get out of hand. That's when people get emotional. That's when people get their feelings hurt. That's when people say things that they don't really mean because they're just trying to protect their own emotions. So if we just pause and take a beat, take a breather, whatever mnemonic that we can remember, and just understand that the person across, the phone, the video, the table, they're human too. We really all want to get along, but it's easy to be triggered on things and say things that we don't really mean. And it's easy to hear things that aren't really said.
Such a fascinating topic that I've never thought we'll have the chance of touching it, because in my practice, I'm talking a lot about the emotional aspect of things that happen to you. One of my most frequent questions is, how does it make you feel? The idea for me here is to help clients to identify within themselves the set of emotions they are feeling at any point, whether it's with themselves or in a conversation. So if something was said to them that didn't land correctly, I'm inviting them to check in and do that 2 minutes, but in a way they understand, okay, I'm verifying here my set of emotions first before I'm giving an answer. What you said, Derek, and it's quite another light bulb here. I want to give you the answer as the fact. I'm not, my brain doesn't involving that thinking process of emotions. I just want to give you as a fact, while the other person might think, oh, you're being a bit rude, or it's too direct, or it can impact them emotionally in that sense. You've taught me something here, Derek, and I'm grateful. And that's my long speech. There is no question. Back to you, James.
Well, let me comment on that, Isaac, because you teach what you said you teach and you ask is perfect, because we have to understand ourselves. And when you ask the questions, how does that make you feel? What you're doing, and you know this, and so I'm not explaining it to you, but just for the sake of conversation here, you're bringing that subconscious up to the conscious. You're taking it from the amygdala to that prefrontal cortex, so we can actually process it. And when we start to understand ourselves, when we bring it up here and we start thinking about this, now we understand cause and effect within ourselves. And when we do that, that gives us and allows us to understand cause and effect in others. So conversations aren't always, boom, boom, boom. It's a little bit of, let's just kind of work together as a handshake rather than obstacles.
How does it make you feel land with you, Derek, if I was asking you?
The question itself I like, because I think that's part of that 2 seconds we need to think about. If I'm asked a direct question, my mind is taking in a lot of things, and there's sayings that people misrepresent that autistics think slow. And again, I'm talking generalities here. And what we're really doing, we're actually processing a lot more information. So it's just taking us a while to process information, just like a CPU does on a computer. So when somebody asks me, or if they're talking to me, part of what goes in my brain, if I take the pause, is how does that make me feel? Am I responding because I'm triggered, or am I responding because I'm protecting myself from additional pain? Or can I actually pause and take the emotion out of it and respond in a coherent manner that contributes to the success of the conversation? So if you're asking me, how does that make me feel? Well, then it's going to be according to, whatever topic that we're on. And I'll admit that, a lot of times that, we talk about maturity and wisdom come with age, but still, I can get caught off and respond emotionally as well. I honestly, in those situations, Isaac, I may not ask myself that question until after the conversation is over and say, kind of do a root cause analysis and where did it go wrong?
My question was going to be around, obviously, you sound very self-aware, Derek, of how the mind works and how you take a pause and how everything is processed. How did you go about learning all this and gaining this self-awareness? Was it after the late diagnosis?
Actually, it was before diagnosis at all. I came out of high school, traditional school, and I went into trade school. And so I worked in labor unions quite a bit. And in labor unions, you get a lot of more of the, gruff, mans. We don't talk emotions, it's just straight, get the job done. You got a problem with that, It really accelerated my learning curve on how to adapt in society. And so even though I've been here, 5 decades and plus, I probably had experience of 2 or 3 times that, just because of that accelerated curve in the groups I was with. So it caused me to seek out information more often than not. I really was easily triggered when I was younger. I didn't understand my brain or anything, but as I matured, and maturity is not about age, it's about consumption of experience. And so I did experience a lot more. So once I got to my diagnosis, it was a finish line that I saw coming for probably about 10 years, but just getting across that finish line, it broke me into a physical, and I did cry tears off and on for 2 weeks. So it was an understanding and an alignment. So I really was looking back through history on situations that happened and how I aligned with them then. And there were a lot of defensive mechanisms. And so I understood all those defensive mechanisms, and I applied that to the training that I created after that point, and from a point of understanding rather than just defense mechanisms. I applied it. How do we get away and let our guard down when we communicate person to person? And I integrated that in my programs, and so much so that I taught Amazon leaders. My program was responsible for training about 35,000 people at Amazon. And these are people in reliability, maintenance, engineering. So more of the analyticals that are a little more disconnected from their emotional side. But on a 5-day program, the first day we would talk nothing about Amazon. It was all about understanding ourselves, understanding each other, and learning how to communicate. And once they learned how to communicate, oh my God, the engagement, with each other in a class of 40 to 50 at a time, the engagement, and they were so willing to drop their guard. And that's really where the acceleration happens. So I hope that answers your question, James.
Yeah. It also sounds like you kind of went back through your experience and kind of put all the dots together as well. So
and I'm hearing a lot of emotions, Derek, because you talk about that moment where you found out. So set of emotions came out of you in the way of tears. And thank you so much for sharing this with us. And I've learned so much from that, such a short conversation. Wow, like you're talking about facts and how our brain and how many, I'm feeling like, whoa, there is so much information. I can't wait to edit it just to hear it again, what I've just learned, because that was really an eye opener. Thank you so much, Derek, for that, really, from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, you're welcome.
How do people can get in touch with you, Derek?
Well, I'm sure you'll throw some links underneath your episode, but people can find me. Just search my name on LinkedIn. Not many of us out there. I don't know if there's another one. And then practicalai.app is my business. And then AIforautistics.com is a nonprofit group that I run.
Fantastic. Yes, of course, all the links will be in the episode description. If you like this episode, like, comment, share, do whatever it takes to help us grow the growing pair. And as usual, we have our roundtable when we pick 2 things we are taking from this episode. I don't know what to pick. There are so many. But James, let's start with you. What are the 2 things you are taking from this episode?
First one is kind of like a realization how much I don't know about how other people's minds work. So it's kind of like it's good to be aware of that gap in knowledge and start to kind of think about it more and clue myself up on it. And the second one was, I mentioned before, that kind of the prompt way of thinking can help out in conversations with people who are neurodivergent that I come across. So interesting idea brought by Derek. What about you, Isaac?
One thing that Derek says about the different levels of things that neurodivergent people have, like you gave the example of Einstein, and I think people that are not on the spectrum or not autism, not diagnosed as autism or ADHD or any of this, are not aware at all about the different behavior of people. And I think this episode showed me how little I know about it. So more to come and more to learn. So thank you so much for that, Derek, again, for that eye-opener. And the second thing is to really, as I said, my practice is a lot about feelings and emotions and how it's important to get in touch with our emotions before we respond and react. And what you said about, I want to give the facts, I want to tell you, and I'm not thinking about emotion, I'm just spitting it out almost. It's another eye-opener for me to take away and reflect. Derek, what are 2 things you are taking from this episode?
Well, the connections when you're talking about how's that make you feel type of thing. It's really the onus on connecting neurodivergent with neurotypical doesn't fall just on the neurotypical. It falls on the neurodivergent as well. And I my advice is, the takeaway here is to always be patient, and that's patience will get us where we need to be. And the other part is, put ourselves in someone else's shoes, and really put ourselves in someone else's shoes, and think about their perspective and what they hear based on what you said, and vice versa. It really will add harmony to the universe.
Derek, thank you so much for your time and for coming to be part in this show.
Likewise, Derek. Thank you.
And
Thank you all.
And until next time, see you guys very, very soon.
Adios.